Hi, I'm Rebecca Mander, and you are listening to the B.O.U.N.C.E Mindset Podcast. During my time as a busy mum and managing director in 2007, I managed significant personal loss and professional challenges as the only woman on the board. I believe we always have a choice, and that a resilient and what I call a B.O.U.N.C.E mindset is possible for anyone to develop. Join me as we meet some incredible guests, sharing their bounce forward stories, including my own in episode 1. I'm so excited to have you here, and also would like to thank Grow Radio Production and Stephen Bedell for Dragonfly, my very own theme tune. Enjoy. Jo Rye is the founder of Clarity and Courage, an executive coach, author, and lifelong believer in the power of people. After 2 decades leading culture and transformation for global brands such as Coca-Cola, HSBC, and the London Stock Exchange, life pressed pause for Jo when a landslide caused her and her husband to have to leave their gorgeous home with just 2 hours' notice. Soon after, Jo lost her beloved Nan and suffered a near-fatal brain hemorrhage just days later. Jo and her husband had always demonstrated incredible resilience, modelled by her inspiring uncle, a Lancaster bomber in World War II. But these catastrophic events in Jo's life reshaped her whole being, teaching her that we can't choose what happens, but we can choose how we respond. Through Clarity and Courage, Jo helps others rediscover purpose, resilience, and hope through coaching, mindfulness, and authentic living. I'm absolutely delighted that Jo's agreed to be on the B.O.U.N.C.E Mindset podcast, and I really hope you enjoy listening to our discussion. So Jo, welcome to the B.O.U.N.C.E Mindset podcast. It's so exciting to see you.
Oh, it's really great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. And yeah, I'm super excited, but also slightly terrified because it is my podcast.
And yeah, it's your first podcast. You're never going to forget this. This is, you're popping your podcast cherry.
You are popping my podcast cherry. Yeah, definitely.
And we've got our coffees. I've got mine in my Dragonfly mug, and you've got one called Stay Weird. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a lovely colour. I like bright colours, as you can probably tell, because I'm wearing a luminous top, and my mug is bright green. And yeah, Stay Weird is after what we're going to talk about today in terms of some life-changing events for me. I felt a bit weird and certainly out of sorts for a while, and then I've learned to love that side of me. So Stay Weird mug is a reminder that that's okay.
I love that. And there's actually the Happy Me Project by Holly Matthews. She often talks about being weird, staying weird, and she has like a whole conference where everyone is celebrating weird, and which is weird.
I think it's the way to go, definitely, because what is weird? What is normal, right? So if you're happy and it's where you want to be and you're good with that, then I think be weird.
Absolutely. And own who you are. Authenticity is so important. And, as I introduced you, I did touch upon, and we're going to talk about some of the events that changed your life. And what were the things that made you feel weird?
Well, I think for me, I'd obviously, had a long, successful standing career in the corporate world, really wanting to help people. I guess that's what I was about in the corporate world. And that's who I am in essence as a soul and as a human being. And, so professionally, I worked in corporate leadership roles in big organizations. And so I knew my identity in those businesses. I knew who I was. I knew who showed up every day for work and home and my family. But then, one day, obviously, that all changed. I didn't know from that moment of change in terms of, me suffering a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage, who I was anymore, what I would be left with. And so I guess that's why I felt weird, because actually, who is this person? It was kind of an imposter feeling. I didn't know who she was, what I was.
And that must have been so frightening. So frightening. How long was it? Did things come back gradually, or did it take time to get back to who you are today?
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because the Joe that was in the corporate world, my neurosurgeon was saying, it's a 2-year recovery because of the brain damage. And inside my head, Joe's head at the time, I was like, he doesn't know who I am. I'll be back at work next month. He doesn't know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of. I'd already defied science because most people don't survive a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage. So I was super lucky and I knew that. And I had the most gifted brain surgeon and everything. And there were no breaks in the chain of my treatment and what I needed to survive. But yeah, I think, him saying 2 years, me thinking I'll be back at work next month, but he was right. So I guess the neurosurgeon knows what they're talking about. Yeah, he was right. It did take 2 years in terms of me relearning a lot of things again, how to do things, basic things to my energy, my brain not being as it was, my brain fatiguing very quickly, and the oh my gosh, the massive unhealthy for me desire to just want to sleep. I'd never done that. I never slept. I was a 4 hour a night sleep girl. Off I go,
Wow.
18 hour day. Off I go back to work, I'm absolutely fine, get on with it. And I was invincible. I love my work. I love my job. I thrived on stress. I didn't feel stress, but clearly my body kept the score and my body
Yes.
hit the F it button metaphorically and drew everything to a very, very, very dramatic standstill for me.
Yes, absolutely. And I work with a lot of people who, in professional services, lawyers especially, are working 90 hours weeks, and they do end up in hospital because, so would you say, because you had gone through so much before the brain hemorrhage, do you think that those events, culminated in that? Were they responsible for that?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, all I know is yes, we'd been forced evacuated from our home. Obviously, my husband's in a wheelchair in terms of paralysis. We were given 2 hours to leave the house. I mean, what do you pack up with a life in a home? And what I did pack was the dogs first and the dog food, whether that's right or wrong. And my husband, I put them in the car and I ran inside and packed 2 suitcases for 4 seasons in one day, eventualities. Threw those in the car, grabbed what I could from an ID perspective. We were told we would never return to the house. We were going to lose everything. So trying to deal with that emotion and that horrific sense of I'll never see any of this again once the door's closed and the door's locked, get in the car. And I remember I finally got in the car and I looked at my husband. I hadn't even thought about what we were doing next. And I said, "Oh, where are we going? Are we going to book into a hotel or something?" And he said, "It's okay. I've spoken to my brother and we can go and live there," which is what we had to do because we had literally nowhere to go. So, yeah, we had all that going on. So, when I wasn't working, I was dealing with lawyers and barristers and not very supportive insurance companies at the time. And then, yeah, not long after that, I was working hard. We were in the midst of COVID for all of us. I mean, if we all think back, it was utterly bonkers. And we were all doing back-to-back calls, hours and hours, on Teams. So that was going on, or I was fighting with lawyers or dealing with that. We were trying to find somewhere to live. And then my nan, who I'm very close to, passed away. And then, yeah, 2 days later, I went out for my usual 10-mile run, hill running, as I did with my dogs, thankfully at not 5:30 in the morning on my own with a head torch, which is what I usually did. I went with my sister-in-law, who said, obviously, because my nan had passed away, I wasn't actually working full time in work. So she came with me. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't be here. She was instrumental in saving my life and raising the alarm. So, yeah, so I think, yes, it's circumstance. I asked my neurosurgeon, why me? I'm fit, I'm pretty healthy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like to drink, not alcoholic level, but, I like to have a drink and I like, treats. And his view was, well, Joe, used to be footballers on a pitch and they drop and it's a cardiac arrest. And, your aneurysm that caused this just went. You just created the perfect storm of blood pressure. The pressure in your brain was high. So, yeah, so I guess it's a perfect storm. It was a culmination of factors. In all of this, I remember even when I was having my brain hemorrhage and I was out and then lucid, out then lucid. It's the weirdest feeling, and it's the most horrific pain you can experience whilst living, I think. And I remember I had a meeting at 11 o'clock with a couple of the directors on the board at a company I was working with at the time. And I remember saying to my husband, just draw the curtains, the light's killing my eyes, give me 2 paracetamol, I've got a meeting at 11. It's just like, what? That's the almost the left right brain, the Jo get on with it, versus the somebody that's in incredible pain and dealing with so much at a deep life level, I guess. But my propensity was to move forward in a positive way, even in that moment. I wanted to move forward, deliberately trying to take a day at a time, one step at a time, one step shuffling forward as a step shuffling forward. And I knew that if I started to think about where I really wanted to be and what I really wanted to be doing, it would cause a number of things in me. Overwhelm for a start, a sense of failure, and almost triggering not depression but a sense of depression because I wasn't there. So rather than overthink the future, I thought, okay, where am I today? What can I do today? Because this, whatever small step I take today is a step forward. I thought about how am I feeling today? And if I was having a really, really bad afternoon with pain or whatever might have been going on for me, I would say, right, I'm going to go to bed, have an early night. Tomorrow is a new day. And tomorrow I will get up and do a reset and start again, rather than drag that sense of feeling in that particular day into the next day or the next moment with me, or go to bed in the morning thinking this afternoon is another afternoon. I do not need to take this with me. I just need to get up and be. And so for me, I didn't think too far into the future. I believed with every cell in my body that I would recover. And whilst I was statistically giving what my neurosurgeon and neurologist said I would be left with, I was like, you know what? Thanks for your statistics, but you do you, and I will do me. I'm going to do me, and that's all I can control that. I can't control what you're telling me. Yeah. So I guess for me, the lessons I learned was I wasn't invincible. I really thought, I don't want to, that sounds really awful and it sounds arrogant, and I don't mean it in an arrogant way, but I kind of felt like I was going through life in a way that I'm okay. I'm crashing through life, work, home, family at warp speed, thinking I had balance, right? Thinking, actually the illusion of balance, because I was meditating every day. I was doing yoga flows every day. I was still doing all of that when I was super busy. So I felt I've got my yin and my yang here. I'm invincible. So I think the lesson for me is that you need to take a beat. You need to pause and live in the moment, truly live in the moment. And with that living in the moment for all of us comes the demons of our own mind. They really do. So there's a lot of things that I learned in terms of managing that and managing that talk and those unhelpful records and stories we have going on, to almost take them out of my brain, smash them and rewrite some of that, because otherwise that would have been very detrimental to my recovery.
Yeah. I think in one of the podcasts we've got, I did a podcast by myself. It's the only one I've done by myself so far. And it was about being in the now and staying in the now and how that reduces anxiety. And, again, you're right. If you look too far forward, it can be with fear, actually, fearing the future, and have a completely opposite effect. And you had that belief, you had that faith that you would be okay, and that, the neurosurgeon could have his statistics, but he could shove them into a cupboard. Let's be nice, because he was a lovely man, and he was a very clever man.
Amazing clever man, and I think I had one of the best neurosurgeons. I was super lucky with the hospital they took me to after my scans, because they were deciding which was the best place for me to go in terms of where the surgeons were on the ground. But yeah, he is like awesome. This man is a holistic medical specialist. He doesn't just look at the science and the scans. He was interested in my emotional state. He was interested in my nutrition in terms of brain nutrition. I have learned so much that I actually am helping friends and people with now, because anything I could do to help other people is a gift, right? So but
Yeah,
yeah, this
definitely.
man, to me, he's just awesome. He's
Oh, well,
just
we definitely need to put his details on the show notes so people can look him up, because I'm sure he's got some writing, some thought leadership somewhere, which would be fabulous for us to
yeah.
enjoy. So I know that just you've mentioned the nutrition of the brain, and for loads of us listening, I'm thinking my friend loves this podcast and she was like, oh my goodness. So brain fog is something that we're all suffering with in my friendship group. Is there anything you can tell us that we need?
Oh gosh, there is so much stuff out there that for me and Mr. T, as I call him, my neurosurgeon would say. So, one of the most important supplements, and I'm talking for brain health here and for myself. So obviously everybody has to make the decision on what's right for them. I'm not saying you should go and do this. Make an informed decision, but full spectrum magnesium without a shadow of a doubt. So and not one with loads of fillers and loads of different things. And so I take a very high level magnesium supplement, and a supplement that passes the blood brain barrier, which is I can never say it, but it's magnesium Talalgo, I think, or Thalgo. I'm not sure how you say it,
Oh,
but
I know. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, but that's the only magnesium mineral part that actually passes the blood-brain barrier. So that's really important. Food, definitely. So obviously fish, oils, avocado is just awesome for the brain. Nuts. Obviously the walnut is in the shape of a brain, and that's no mistake by nature. There are so many things, creatine, really good for the brain. Again, get a really good one. And one of the biggest things that really looks after a couple of, well, there's loads more actually. I could a whole podcast talking about this, but really good mouth health. So I do oil pulling in the mouth, which is just a spoon of coconut oil into the mouth 2 or 3 times a week for 5 minutes. Swish it around your mouth. Don't spit it down the sink or into the toilet, because clearly it solidifies. Spit it in the bin. It literally cleanses the mouth and keeps the oral hygiene and all the bacteria that are now assimilating with Alzheimer's that can come from the mouth clear, or helps to. So gosh, there is literally loads of things. I could talk at you for like the next 2 hours on this. So maybe that's a different chat show.
Yeah, yeah. A different
Not
chat
sure.
show. Look at you. You're on your first podcast and you're already setting yourself up
Oh,
for a chat show. Good for
no,
you.
I'm sorry, chat show. Listen to me honestly, what am I like? But it's, for me, it's about if this helps people, and that's what I really have tried to do since I've recovered. I've pivoted using my knowledge and my experience and my qualifications of the corporate world into all of us outside of that. How can I help people get clarity and have the courage that they need to take their lives forward? And within the I guess products, do you want to say? I hate that word because sounds like I'm selling them. They're not. They're free. Created free tools for people around a 21-day clarity reset, or 7-day sleep rituals to really help with sleep, because that's the other thing that's so important for our brains is good sleep. And as I know, with my sleep, it's a lot better now because of all the things I do. But post brain hemorrhage, my brain was like a flashing light disco constantly. It was like my brain was just firing fireworks inside every time I shut my eyes. But certainly for my friends that are menopausal, we're at that age, sleep is like a distant memory, a full night. And so a lot of the things that you can do within those free gifts or free products, if you want, help give some of that advice and allow people to do it at their own pace or their own speed.
That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. And that's what you've created your business around, how to take from your learned and your lived experience, how you can help others now.
Yeah.
And that business launches very soon. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's been officially running anyway, but I just thought I need to put it into some sort of website format, this stuff. So yeah, it's ready to go really. There's just a few technical glitches that are having to be ironed out, but it should be going live imminently. I'm not sure when this podcast will go out, but it's likely to be live by the time this goes out. But yeah, so that's been a whole frustrating journey, right? So from somebody that isn't tech to automating a whole business online behind a website and creating it all herself. Honestly, an aneurysm blew my mind, but this has blown my mind. But even in my days of frustration on that, I've just put one step in front of the other, taken a deep breath and thought, even if I'm moving forward, I can do this. So even when I felt I just can't do this and I want to throw in the towel, I'm still here and I'm still doing it. So I
Absolutely.
really hope it's live by the time this goes live. Otherwise, I don't know. I need to give myself a good smack.
I think you'll be alive. I think you'll be live. Don't worry. It's fabulous. And so your
Oh.
clients that you're helping now, tell us about them.
Yeah, so clients are, so it's people that are feeling maybe overwhelmed with life, feeling a bit lost, feeling that they know what they feel they should be doing or want to be doing, but don't know how to start. So it's kind of, if you feel, as I would say, my saying, stuck in G-force. So you're almost stuck in this position of, I need to move forward, but I feel a bit paralyzed. And I feel so overwhelmed by my thought processes and my life. I can't slow it down enough to see clearly. So that's what I work with people on from a life coach perspective, to give them, really, for them, actually, I don't do the work. I hold space for them to do the work. That's really important. People don't come to me to be told the answers, but we find the answers. They find the answers in that time. And everybody leaves a session with real clarity on what one thing they're going to walk away and do between now and maybe next time we meet, to give them that momentum, to give them that focus, to give them that one step forward, and feeling that sense of control back, the sense that they've got the reins back in their life. So I guess that's one element I work on. So that's really helping people physically, emotionally, and mentally. And then the other elements, I'm a yoga instructor and I'm a Reiki Master and an access bars practitioner. So I work on an energetic level with people as well. So in an emotional, and for some people as well, everybody actually, a spiritual level, whatever that means to you. So for people that want to go deep into that, we can do that. And for others that don't, that's fine too. It's what works for the individual, because we are all so different. But yeah, it's just really lovely to be able to see people grow, see people's nervous systems just completely calm down through the process, and just move forward with such confidence and courage. And that's why I get out of bed in the morning. And that's why I'm still here, I think. And I'm super grateful to be here, because I've got so many great things to offer and give, and in my life that I wouldn't be seeing every day. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Your life is so full now, as it has throughout your life. It's always been full. Sometimes not full of the great things, but it's always been full. You've never been bored, have you, Jo?
No, no. I remember my parents always said from the day I was born, I mean, I was premature. That probably tells you all you need to know. I think I couldn't wait to get out. Either that, or maybe I thought, oh God, it's this life thing again. Come on, let's get it over with. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what people's beliefs are, but some friends laugh about that. But my parents said from the day I was born, I didn't know how to sit still. I was in a bed at 3 months old because I used to throw myself out the cot. My parents would say, you don't know what your bottom's made for. You just don't sit. And I just feel that life's here to grab, and life's here to embrace and to share and to make a difference, and hopefully a positive difference, and be a ray of light in the world, rather than someone of doom or gloom or an energy vampire, because there's so much in the world right now that is, I think, really hard for everybody to live with. And so if we can just create small chinks of light everywhere, it creates hope, and hope creates momentum, and hope creates love for me as well. So I think that's so incredibly important.
I love that. I love that. That energy of light, as opposed to an energy of vampire, sucks life out of you. I think you're absolutely right, and you are a ray of light. And the people you help, I know, you change lives, and what the way you talk about. I think when you've done something and you've overcome what you've overcome, your clients then think, if she can do that, I can definitely do this. If she has coped with overwhelm to that extent, I can definitely do that. And we've talked a lot about busy people and the challenges. And I'm going to also put those books in the show notes for people to read because they sound brilliant, about the body and those signals that we get. And you've worked in the corporate world. When I started coaching, my niche, and it still is supporting leaders through personal setback. What advice would you give to busy people who are going through something right now which is so overwhelming, and they have, they might be managing codependents, children, parents, working, financial worries? I remember wanting to be checked into a hospital when Charlie died. I thought, if you put me in a hospital, that'd be great, so I don't have to think about anything. And a lot of people don't have that space. They're having to continue day in, day out, and they're going through their setback. That might be living with someone with a challenging, setback themselves. What advice would you give to those people?
Right. Well, there's so much out there, isn't there? It's so overwhelming for everybody in terms of what do I do? Where do I turn? And when life is busy from the minute you get up, if you've got kids, dependents, whatever it might be, to work, getting home, it's exhausting. So, I think for me, one of the superpowers we all have is choice. I think one of the best quotes from, I think it's by Viktor Frankl, who said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude. So that's the only thing that can't be taken. So for me, it's that superpower of choice, because whether we like it or not at a physical level, when we feel emotionally triggered or angry or whatever it might be, that emotion comes post a trigger, it only takes 90 seconds for the body to flush the stress chemicals triggered by that anger or fear. So if we are still feeling angry after 90 seconds, we are actually choosing to feel that way.
Wow.
And I think that's so powerful to understand that and realize, actually, I do have a choice here. And I think as human beings, sometimes we feel more victims rather than actually, I guess, I would say survivor. I don't class myself as that, but we feel a victim of circumstance. Well, I'm busy. My life is busy. Well, actually, you have a choice here. You can step back and say, actually, how do I want to readdress the balance? What do I want to do? What are my controllables? How can I control my controllables, I guess? So there's a number of things, I guess. There's a number of tools in my kit bag. I think firstly for me, when I was going through what I went through, is I wanted to become really mindful. And really mindful about what was going on in my head, what records or stories was I telling myself versus the possibilities. So I literally, in 10 minutes a day, and I mean that's 10 minutes a day, which hopefully everybody can find, even if it's 5 minutes a day, and you start the list and you come back to it, and if you like this is really great. But I wrote down what was going on in my head, what thoughts were going on in my head, what was negatively playing out in my mind's eye. So I could actually take a look at what these records, these negative records were that I have created that are my scripts, and then actually writing them down. What did I want those to become rather than what they were today? So that's the first thing. So it's real self-awareness around, where I'm at, where's my life at today? So 10 minutes, not even that, a few minutes a day. Also, I think realizing that our feelings aren't who we are, their emotions just pass through us. I think a lot of people analogize this to the weather, the weather passing through, clouds passing through. We aren't our feelings, but if I was having a bad morning, like I've said, or a bad afternoon, I would do a reset. I would say, okay, I just need to go and take a rest. Now, I know that's easy when you aren't able to work and you're at home, but when you're super busy, what can you do? So I think it's just about saying, what do I need to do a reset here? And some lovely things you can do, even in the evenings before going to bed at night. Just have a little journal at the side of your bed, write 3 things down every night that you're grateful for before you go to sleep. And it can be as simple as something like, I've had a lovely macchiato today. I walk my dogs in the warm sunshine or the cold sunshine or the rain. It can be that simple to, I helped an old lady carry a suitcase down onto the tube or back out of the tube. What am I grateful for that I'm able to do today? Put one step in front of the other. Because actually doing that for 21 days has absolutely proven to recognitively reprogram our brain to be more positive. So that will help with our positive mindset. So I think there's a lot of small things that we can do to help ourselves to give us a much more positive outlook, but also help us feel more in control. There's also something I do, which I do with a lot of clients, called Control the Controllables. And that's a really simple activity people can do at home. And it enables you to say, what's overwhelming me? Okay, I have all those things that are overwhelming me. What can I control? Okay, and what can't I control? So what I can't control, I get rid of very quickly through the activity. And what I can influence or control, I go and put my limited energy into those only.
Yeah. So very much like Stephen Covey's circle of influence, circle of concern.
It's exactly that. Having that emotion, staying in a negative emotional state is no good for any of us. It's just a horrible place to be. So then it is about, controlling that controllable or choosing that attitude. And you know what? Sometimes after 90 seconds, we all want to stay in and wallow in a puddle of, I'm so down, I'm so crap, because we're human, right? So we're not perfect. Well, I'm certainly not. So, sometimes to wallow in a puddle of mud or sit in a load of crap, we want to do it. And that's fine. But you're aware you're doing it and then saying, okay, right, now's the time to shift out of this. How am I going to do it? And another really great simple tip and technique I use is called the 5-second rule. And that's a 5-second trick to stop overthinking or stop an emotional reaction in its tracks. So, when an emotion rises or when a situation rises, just pause. And in your head, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's not magic, I promise you, it's neuroscience, because counting down interrupts the mental loop of excuses and taps into the part of the brain that's wired for focus and decision making. So that will really help you to, by the time you get to 1, go, right, okay, this is what I need to do. It distracts the mind from going into that negative record. It just enables 5 seconds can literally give you that pivot, give you that shift. So most of us don't need another complicated system. We're all busy. We need a way to cut through the noise in our heads. And the 5-second rule is practical. You can do it. And it's impossible to forget, right? Everyone can 5. And 5 seconds is all it takes to get out of your own way and into action. That's all it takes.
Wow. 5 seconds. Here we are.
Here we go.
Trying to build our businesses with all that research, and all we need is 5 seconds. I'm absolutely going to try that, and I'm going to recommend it to people I know struggle with focus, and so I'm definitely going to be taking that forward, as I will many of the things that you've talked about today. Jo, you definitely need to come back for another podcast, because we've got to find out more about the brain. That's fascinating. And also we need to know about the book that you're writing. I mean, my goodness, we haven't talked about that. You're writing a book about your incredible uncle who was a Lancaster bomber in World War II.
Well, the book's finished, actually. So
right.
I wrote, for most of my adult life, I really dreamed of writing this book. But like many dreams, it sat quietly in the background for me as my career and life marched forward. And I always thought one day I'll get to it. And then obviously I was given, with the brain hemorrhage, the most amazing blessing, which was time. And so what I did, and I guess as a beacon of purpose during one of the hardest periods of my life, it was so tough coming back from that, not knowing who I was, what I would be capable of, what I would be able to do. But through the fog of recovery and the limits of my own energy at the time, I just decided, right, pen to paper, and I wrote word by word, scene by scene, And sometimes just 2 minutes a day, sometimes 5 minutes a day, whatever my brain could manage, I just wrote, I just got the story down. And so I actually wrote and finished it during my recovery, and then since then I've had to go back through and obviously do edits and work with an amazing writing coach called Sorrel Pitt, who's been awesome, to really challenge the way I've written things and my thinking. And I did it. I achieved it, right? Even in the darkest times of a recovery, I achieved it. It gave me something to focus on, something positive, and it was a great way I could feel close to my nan, even though she wasn't here during that time. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so watch this space on that too. It's a bit like everything is coming, it's there. I just
Yes.
so that's done. So watch this space. But yeah, what survives is love is the title. And yeah, I can maybe hopefully say more about that another time. But yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, from that 3-month-old jumping out of their cot, you haven't stopped, have you? And I absolutely don't think there's anything you couldn't do, Jo. And I'm sure that book will get picked up by an agent. As you know, so many of the messages you've given us today have just been so helpful. They're going to help so many people listening to this. Busy mums, so many people, professionals, people going through setback, to see how much setback you've gone through and how much you've overcome, and not only that you have survived but thrived through that. You know, you're really a great example of that, and that beacon of light that you talk about, that is exactly who you are and what you are. And it's just so lovely to be able to share that beacon of light through my podcast, through Bounce Mindset. I loved that, you know, really the message is stay in the now. Don't go anywhere else. You don't need to worry about anything else. Just stay in the now and control the controllables. And I loved the get up and just be, you know, that reset. We have a fantastic group, women that I'm with, and we're all on a nutrition journey. And quite often we will mess up big time. It normally involves cake or Aperol spritz. But when we do mess up, the message is just start again, reset the next day, drink water, eat protein. And it's the same principle, isn't it, in these big things that happen to us in life? Just get up and just be. You do you was another brilliant phrase. And that take a beat, pause. I love that. And I know we're busy people, but I'm a real advocate for afternoon sleep. And even if it's 10 minutes of shutting my eyes, I'll literally say to my husband, I'm just going to lie down. And he knows it's not going to be for an hour or so, but it would just be close my eyes, shut up, and reboot.
Totally. That reboot time is so important. And you know what? Sometimes you don't realize it either, that we are all busy and life is busy. But the question I think for all of us is, are you choosing to be busy? So you're not having
Yes.
some things you don't maybe want to have to deal with, and it is kind of an anesthetic, or are you actually genuinely busy? But we all choose what we put our time and attention into. So if you're busy, what are you busy doing? And what are you busy doing now? What would you like to be busy doing in the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
you need to do to take that beat, just
Yeah.
have a bit of a recalibration and say, actually, I'm going to stop doing some of this and do some of the
Yes.
stuff I love, because life is really a gift and life is short. And yeah, it's such an amazing thing. And I have to say, I feel very humbled by your words, and thank you so much, you know, for inviting me along and popping my podcast cherry. For sure. And, you know, anything I can do to help anyone at all, that's all I want to be able to do, is give out there, and know the rest will take care of itself. So, yeah.
It absolutely will. The rest will take care of itself. And we'll be popping your details into the show notes. And along with those books you recommended, that's fantastic. And that lovely Viktor Frankl quote, the book, The Choice, is also a recommendation of mine. And Edith Eger was very much influenced by Viktor Frankl. So thank you so much, Jo. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a lovely conversation with you, and I really look forward to sharing it with my listeners. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much, and have a really great rest of the day, and keep bright, keep sparkling.
Keep sparkling. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
thank you for listening to the B.O.U.N.C.E Mindset podcast. If you would like a coach in your pocket with free regular hints and tips to help you bounce forward in your career or personal life, then please feel free to go to the B.O.U.N.C E Mindset podcast show notes. And don't forget to leave a review for us. Thank you. Bye.